Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel and happy Monday. I hope that your week is off to a great start. Today I'm sharing an update on what I've been reading, and I've been reading only for the Retro Romance Readathon, and y'all, I'm loving it. I am having such a great time reading these old-fashioned retro romances. It's just so much fun. So first, before I forget, I want to say thank you to Sarah over at The Bookish Knitter and Storm over at Storm Reads, because they are hosting this wonderful event, and I'm having a great time reading these old books. And what I decided to do this year was choose a couple of books that I remember reading when I was in middle school, some Beverly Cleary teen romance type books, and then a Betty Neels and a Grace Livingston Hill. And so that's what I've been reading, and I'm having a great time. I've never said that I've enjoyed category romance really, and I think it's just the ones that I choose. I think I just choose the wrong ones because all of these have been wonderful. So I'm going to share my thoughts on the books I'm reading for retro romance, and then I also have a new reading journal I want to share, and then I also received a Valentine. Did you ever receive Valentines when you were a kid? Well, I loved it. I remember the boxes you would get. Actually, I bought one this past week, and I gave treats to some of the people that were working this Sunday in the media booth, because we have camera people and a sound person. We have a couple of people running live stream, and then we have the person that puts up the slides in the sanctuary. So there is a lot of different people doing different things. And so this past week I bought them all a little thing of candy, and I gave them all a little card out of one of those boxes that you use like in elementary school, because I loved Valentine's Day. When I was in school, I loved Valentine's Day. The teacher would send home this list of everyone in the class, and then I would take my Valentines and address each one and then sign it. And I really took my time with this. I chose the perfect card for each person in my class, or at least that's what I was trying to do. And I really took a lot of time. I was ready to do it. You know, she would send home the list earlier, so we would have time to go purchase the little Valentines and, you know, address them and everything. And then when I was a school teacher, I still loved Valentine's Day, and I still gave Valentines to all my students. I just loved it. And in my neighborhood, now I don't know if anybody ever did this in their neighborhood, because my husband didn't know what in the world I was talking about when I married him, and we grew up, we went to high school together, so it wasn't like he was in another state or country or anything. So I thought everyone did this, but apparently it was just my neighborhood. Let me know if you've ever heard of this. But we did what we called throwing Valentines. So we threw Valentines, which means after school on Valentine's Day, just like you would address the little Valentines for your classmates, we had a lot of kids in our neighborhood, for one thing, and I don't know who started this, but we would also get extra Valentines for the neighborhood children. And so I would address one for each one of the kids in the neighborhood, and then after school, you know, probably late afternoon, early evening, we would each go around to the different houses, and we would sneak up to the door, throw the Valentines at the door, you know, on the doormat, and then not real fast and run, because you wanted to run. You didn't want them to see you, so that when they opened the door, they would look down and they would see the Valentine cards there, and then they could go in and see who had thrown the Valentines. So we did that for years, and we loved it. And I don't think anybody else did that, because I've asked and nobody knows what I'm talking about. So anyway, did you throw Valentines? We did in our neighborhood, and I'm thankful that I had such a wonderful experience in my neighborhood. That was a wonderful memory. But we did have a lot of little children in our neighborhood, and I guess we all love Valentine's Day. So that was a fun thing, a fun memory. So anyway, I received a Valentine in the mail from a sweet booktuber, Sonia. You know that I talk about Sonia all the time. Her channel is Sonia with an I, and I'll link her below. But she sent me a sweet little Valentine, and I was just so excited because I love Sonia. She's a great friend. but I love Valentine's Day. So this was so sweet of her. And then inside, she wrote me a sweet message of how she treasures my friendship, which I love. That's the sweetest Valentine. But she also gave me a little plastic bag, a little goodie bag. And isn't that cute? There are bookmarks inside and also just a variety of different little stickers and things. So thank you, Sonia, because it just made my day when I went to the post office and I had a Valentine. It was just so sweet because I do absolutely love Valentine's Day. So thank you to Sonia for that. So I also received some book mail from Clever Fox. They reached out and asked if I would like to try one of their reading journals. And of course I said yes. And so I chose this beautiful lavender reading journal. There are several color options and they were all beautiful, but I liked this color, so I'm glad I've received this one. And then it says how it works. There's a little pamphlet that comes with it, and it shows you how to fill this out because there are several different pages in here of different things to do in this journal. So the main thing is, at the beginning there's like a TBR, there's an index, there's just a tracker, a reading tracker for each day. But then the main page, and it has these beautiful ribbons too, so if you want to bookmark the index and bookmark the reading tracker, however you want to do. But each day has 2 pages, so it's a 2-page spread out. And then on this side, you answer some questions, you write some main things like when it was published and those things. I really like this a lot though. This little thing, I'm not sure if that's showing up. I really like the little wheel because on it, it has, you kind of fill in how much you enjoyed that. Was it the writing style, the characters, the plot, readability, and setting? So you kind of fill out measuring each part of the story. And I really like that because that's a little more detailed and it really makes you think of why you love a story or why you don't love a story so much. And then you can do an overall rating with the 5 stars at the bottom. There's 5 blank stars and then you can fill in for how you feel about the book overall. I really like this setup. And then on this side it's just other thoughts you might have. So as you're reading, you could take some, jot some notes down, or afterwards, if you still have some thoughts that you want to, that wasn't covered on this side, you can use this side for that. I think it's beautiful. I love it. So thank you to Clever Fox for sending this my way. I will leave a link in the description box below to the Clever Fox reading journal if you're interested. Okay, so now let's talk about the books that I read for the Retro Romance so far. Now, I'm still reading for that, but I did want to kick off February by just working on retro romances. So the first one is called Uncertain Summer by Betty Neels. This was published in 1972, which happens to be the year I was born, so we're the same age. This had 191 pages, and I called this genre Contemporary Clean Romance because it was contemporary when it was written. So it's a contemporary clean romance. This is about Serena. So Serena is a nurse, and she gives up her nursing job to move to Holland for a man she just met, Lawrence. And Lawrence is a player. He is a player. And so he's this handsome, charming guy that she meets. He has an accident, and so he comes to the hospital, and she is his nurse. That's how they meet. And he is just head over heels for Serena, and he wants her to marry him. And so they talk a little bit, and then just on a whim, she moves to Holland, and she gives up her job as a nurse and moves to Holland. And when she gets there, she realizes that it's not exactly what she thought it was going to be, that he is not the charming man she thought he was going to be, and that he never intended on marrying her. Instead, what's worse is he had planned on marrying someone else all along. So that is what happens in the story. And then we have, if you look in the picture, you can see there is a man here and a man over here. So we have another man in this story. He's a cousin to Lawrence. It was at how many pages did I say? This was 191 pages, and I think it was on page 91. I don't want to say too much. So it flipped what I thought the trope was in this book, and I loved it. I loved it because it's a favorite trope for me. But I don't want to spoil the book, so I'm not going to say any more about it. It may be on the back of the book or, in a synopsis, but I enjoyed not knowing that part, so I'm not going to tell you. I loved it. I thought it was great. I put on here that I loved that it was fast-paced and that it was this certain trope, which I can't say because I don't want to ruin it for you. But that's why I really loved it. And again, I didn't know that it was that trope until halfway through the book. If you like old school Harlequin romances, a good old clean romance, you'll enjoy this. This is by Betty Neels, and I love her little books. I have a couple of others. This one is Winter of Change, and then this one is Henrietta's Own Castle. And I had these as options. This one I know is 1975. I'm not sure when this one is. I had these as options, but I ended up choosing Uncertain Summer because one of the prompts was to read a spring or summer, and so that's why I chose this one. But I still have these to read, and so at some point I'll pick those up too. Now the next one is definitely a retro romance for me because it is an oldie for me, but a goodie. This is a book that I read when I was in middle school, and I just loved Beverly Cleary in middle school. And it is Jean and Johnny by Beverly Cleary. It was published in 1959, and my copy has 284 pages. And the genre is middle grade tween romance. That's what I call it. I also have the old paperback copy too. I had picked this up at, I think, a library sale or something. And then I found this copy. And of course, this is beautiful, and I had to have it because it reminds me of how it looked in the library. And I tell you, it even has some library things on it because it is a discarded library book, which makes me even more excited about it. So I loved this. One thing I did notice too is this one doesn't have the pictures as this one does. And this has such fun little pictures in it. I love the pictures. And when I started reading this, it just made me so excited to see those old-fashioned lined drawings in this book. It just takes me back. And I had forgotten about this one, but as soon as I started reading it, I remembered. And here's the thing. I have been afraid. My favorite is this one. 15 is my favorite. And I remember reading this over and over in middle school. But I've been afraid to reread this because I thought, is it going to stand up to, the test of time? Because it's been so long ago. But then after reading Jean and Johnny again, yes, I'm going to read it because this was Beverly Cleary is just a great storyteller, and she just had a good handle on kids and teenagers and how they were feeling and their frustrations. And to me, even though this was published in 1959, even though this was published in 1959, it's timeless. The things that she's dealing with in the story, growing up, coming of age, it's timeless. And so I absolutely loved every minute of it. I had a great time. Okay, so this is about 15-year-old Jean, and she is asked to dance at the very beginning of the story. She's asked to dance by the most handsome, most popular guy in school, Johnny. And she's never really thought much about boys or anything. Actually, when she is at the dance, she's not even there to dance. She is there with her friend's mother who's dropping something off. And her and her friend just sit there and watch the people dance. And he happens to just come up to her and start, ask her to dance, and they start dancing. Well, after that, she decides she's head over heels in love with Johnny. And she kind of just makes a fool of herself over Johnny. She starts following him around, calling him. So that's what the story's about. It is just a delight. I loved every minute of it, and I had a great time reading this one, and I highly recommend it. 5 stars. What I liked about it was it's a realistic teen romance. It's not over the top. It's very clean and wholesome. And for me, nostalgic. That was something I loved. And yeah, wholesome, clean romance. So highly recommend Gene and Johnny if you want just a wholesome, clean, fun, middle grade romance. This is the one for you. And middle grade March is coming up, so you could read this for middle grade March as well. And speaking of Beverly Cleary, I mentioned 15 as being my favorite, but I also remember reading The Luckiest Girl. This one was published in 1958, and so I immediately wanted to read this one. And so this one's on my nightstand right now. I am right here. I have just about 50 more pages of this to read, and I will be finishing this probably tonight. And I'm going to tell you more about this one in the next update, but I'm loving this one too. So if you can get your hands on those sweet little Beverly Cleary books, I highly recommend those as well. And then finally, I read a Grace Livingston Hill. So I read a Betty Neels for Retro Romance, and I have read a Grace Livingston Hill for Retro Romance, which was my goal. I wanted to read a couple of those old Beverly Clearys, a Betty Neels, and a Grace Livingston Hill. And I accomplished that already, and here it is just the second week in February, so yay for me. But this is Exit Betty by Grace Livingston Hill, and it was published in 1920. So this is the oldest book on my Retro Romance TBR. And this was 153 pages, so super short, not very long. This is Christian romance is what I called it, although the romance is super light in this one. It's more about Betty and coming to terms with her family life, and there's a lot of Christian themes in it. So it's a really good one, but it is light on the romance. In this one, it's a runaway bride. So Betty is a runaway bride at the very beginning. That's the first scene. And she escapes this arranged marriage to a horrible person. And she goes into hiding because they put out a newspaper article trying to find Betty, and they say that she has escaped an insane asylum, which is not true. That has not happened. But that's what they're saying to force her to marry this man. And so she goes into hiding, and someone helps her, and she goes to another town and stays with this family. She changes her name. She stays with this wonderful, loving Christian family. And that's what the story is about. And again, it's not very long, but it was a sweet one. I really enjoyed this one. I said the reasons I enjoyed it was found family. I always love a good found family, and that's what's in this one. It's fast-paced. Of course, it's not very long, but it was super fast-paced, and I read this in one day. I couldn't put it down. And it's a wholesome story, so I love that about it too. So, yes, I am really enjoying all of the books I've been reading for Retro Romance so far, and I can't wait to finish The Luckiest Girl, and so I'll tell you about that one in the next reading update. So let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you're participating in the Retro Romance, or do you keep a reading journal? Let me know that too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.